This is Carla from the Jackson County Public Library in Ripley, and this is our second Friday in the 5 Fridays of Halloween. This week's scary stories will be based in the United States. And I want to talk to you today about black-eyed kids. Now, the first reported incident of a black-eyed child was in 1950, but it wasn't until 1996 that Brian Bethel, a reporter in Abilene, Texas, posted his encounter to a paranormal mailing list, and this is when it became much more widespread and more encounters were reported. Now, descriptions of black-eyed kids can vary, but they do share some common traits. They are usually have pale skin and brown or very pale colored hair. They can be individual or they can travel in twos. It's most commonly found in twos. And when they are in twos or pairs, there's usually one that's a lot older than the other one. They range in age from about 4 to 17. And when they're in pairs, they're usually both boys or both girls. I didn't find any accounts of them being a boy and a girl. And when they're in pairs, it's always the older child that does the talking. They dress like kids dress for the time. There's nothing usually unusual about their dress. And they're always very polite. They have absolutely no hesitation to approach strangers and ask for things, ask to be let in, ask to be taken inside their car, to be taken somewhere else, to use their phone, to come in and warm up. But they always want to be let in, and they have to ask, it appears. And they also, some people have reported that they have this like strange psychic ability or something. They kind of manipulate your emotions. There are two characteristics, however, that all black-eyed kids share. And the first is their eyes are completely black. There's no whites, there's no iris, there's no pupil, it's just solid black. And the second is they cause the same reaction to every person that encounters them, and that is complete and total terror. It doesn't matter if you're a very brave, skilled military man, and everyone, all the way down to family pets, always feel a sense of terror overwhelm them. Now let's go back to 1950, when a young boy named Harold was walking home along a road in Virginia. And as he's walking along, he sees a boy leaning up against a fence. And Harold speaks to him like is the custom in the South, but the boy doesn't respond. And Harold keeps walking. And as he comes abreast of the boy says, "I'm going to go to your home. You're going to walk me to your house." Well, this kind of startles Harold, and he looks up and he looks at the kid and he notices that the eyes are completely black. No iris, no pupil, no whites, just solid black. At this point, Harold is absolutely overwhelmed with terror. Every cell in his body is screaming, "Run! Run!" And it's almost like the boy could read his mind, because he then said, "Now don't you run from me, you're going to walk me to your house." Well, at this point, terror overwhelmed Harold and he bolted. He ran as fast as he could. And as he was running away, he thought he heard what sounded like a bobcat scream, but he didn't slow down or turn around to look. When he got home, he ran in the house, he was telling his parents about it, and he was terrified, and they believed him. His dad grabbed a gun and went out looking for this devil, because that's what they thought it was. But he never found anything. And his mom later insisted that Harold go to a priest. Now fast forward to 1996. Brian Bethel, a reporter from Abilene, Texas, needed to pay his internet bill. So it was 9:30, January 16th, 1996. He gets in his car and he heads out to the drop box. On his way there, though, he stops at a movie theater and pulls in to use the light of the marquee to write on his check. And as he's writing out the check, he hears this like tap on the window. And he looks up and there's these two boys staring at him. One of them is taller than the other. They have on normal clothes, you know, hoodies and jeans. One of them, the taller one, has like brown hair, and the shorter one has this really pale red hair. But they both have these very like olive type complexions. And they explained to him that they had come to the movies to see Mortal Kombat, but they had forgot their money at home. And they wanted him to let them in the car so he could run them home to get their money, and then they could go to the movies. Well, he thought this was kind of a strange request, so he's hesitating. And that's when they start trying to coax him to let them in. And they say, "Come on, mister. We just want to go to our house. We're just two little boys. Come on, mister, let us in. We'll go to our mother's house." Well, at this point, Brian notices his hand starting to go towards the door lock to unlock the door. And he catches himself. And he jerks back. And at this point, he looks up into their eyes, and he sees that they're totally black. And the terror overwhelms him. And the boys start to push even harder. It's like, "Come on, mister, we're not going to hurt you. We're just two little boys. We just want to go to our home. Just let us in. You got to let us in." Well, at this point, he managed to find his courage. And he puts his car in reverse, backs out, and speeds home. He didn't even pay his internet bill. It was after this point that other people started reporting the black-eyed kids. So we're going to fast forward to March 17th, 2008. On that day, a young 12-year-old boy and his mom had drove into town because she had a hair appointment. So they stop at the salon, and he doesn't want to go in and sit there and wait with her. So he's going to wait in the truck. They have an old Chevy truck. And as he's waiting, he happens to notice this boy walking back and forth in front of the truck. And he thinks it's somebody from school that he knows. So he like pounds on the windshield, and the boy looks up, and he realizes it's not him. And then the boy walks over to the window, and he whispers, "You have to let me in." And Harold looks up at him, and he sees the black eyes. Well, the kid, not Harold, the 12-year-old boy looks up, and he sees the black eyes. And he freaks out. He's locking all the doors, and he gets under the seat and hides. And 5 minutes later, the kid's gone. But when his mother came out, she told him about the weirdest experience she had had. She said there was some strange kid that walks in that has these black eyes demanding that he give her the car keys. Thankfully, she didn't. Fast forward again until last year, September 19th, 2019. There was a woman in bed with her husband and their small 22-month-old child, and they were sleeping. And they had this young puppy that was like 3 months old named Lucy. Well, Lucy starts barking like crazy at their bedroom door, which wakes the woman up. And she gets up and she's like, "Oh, what's wrong with this pup? She's not like this. She's usually really quiet." She's like, she's probably heard like the furnace get going or something, and it's freaked her out. So the woman goes to open the bedroom door to show her there's nothing there. And as soon as she opens the door, the dog bolts to the front door, and she is barking and growling ferociously. The woman's like, "Great, now I'm going to have to open that door and show her there's nothing there." Well, as the woman approaches the door and reaches for the handle, Lucy goes wild. She's jumping in front of her, she's barking like crazy, but as soon as the woman's hand touches the knob, she immediately stops, and she cowers on the floor and whimpers. Well, when her hand touched the door, the woman also felt this sense of fear and dread, and it caused her to look through the peephole. And as she looks through the peephole, she sees two kids standing there, like about a 17-year-old girl and a little teeny girl with her, about maybe 4 or 5 years old. They both have on jeans and hoodies and very, very pale skin and pale blonde hair. Well, this causes the woman to be concerned, because this is a really weird thing to have happen in the middle of the night. And at this point, the girl looks up and looks in the peephole like she has sensed that she's there, even though she has had, the woman has done nothing to indicate that there's someone on the other side of the door. She's not made any noise, she's not talked to the dog or anything, But the girl looks up, and the woman sees her eyes, and they are completely black. At this point, terror overwhelms the woman. And the girl says, "We have to use your phone. Our mother will be worried. You've got to let us in." Well, the woman didn't answer, and she starts backing away from the door because she's terrified. And the girl seems to sense this, and she's like, "Just let us use your phone. We're not going to hurt you. If we were going to hurt you, we would have broke in already. I'll ask again, may we come in and use your phone?" Well, the woman is just like terrified, and she starts backing away, and she gets, as she's almost to the bedroom, the girl calls out one more time, "You have to let us in to use your phone." Well, the woman goes inside the bedroom, locks the door, covers up the window, stays up the rest of the night. When her husband wakes up in the morning, she tells him about what happened, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a dream, just let it go." Well, the woman can't let it go, and to this day, she still feels a sense of fear and dread when she's in the house by herself, and it's quiet. So what happens when people actually interact with these kids, when they help them? Well, there's very, very few accounts of this happening. There was one in which a man had interacted with him. He had tried to help them, and he swore he would never, ever do this again. These two kids had showed up at his door wanting something, probably to use the phone or to come in and warm up, and he lets them in. And it wasn't until that point that he sees the black eyes. And he said, they try to get really, really close to you, and at that point, you feel like you're really sleepy, amazingly drowsy. And it feels like they're trying to rip your soul from your body. Well, at this point, the guy's girlfriend shows up, and she kicks him out. And he believes to this day that he would be dead if she hadn't shown up when she did. And then there's another account I found where this gentleman had a friend who had been telling him about these really creepy kids that was hanging around his house. And he seemed to be really scared of them. And they just kept wanting to use the phone or whatever. And finally, he tells his friend, he's like, "Okay, I'm just going to help these kids and maybe they'll go away." Well, after that point, the gentleman never heard from his friend again, and he is still missing to this day. So what are these black-eyed kids? No one seems to know. There is an interesting theory, however. There is an old Iroquois legend about an evil power called, I don't really know how to pronounce this, but it's like Otcon. And they believed it could inhabit children. And it usually happened when the kids were out in the woods by themselves messing around, which was really common for all kinds of kids at that time. So when the kids were out by themselves, the Otcon would come upon them and overwhelm them and inhabit their body. And when the kids reemerged from the woods, their eyes were completely black, their skin was pale, they acted very nervous, and they kept repeating themselves over and over again. And it seemed to be their entire goal was to destroy the tribe and infect everyone with this Otcon. Now, whether this legend is true or just made up to scare people, no one really knows. But I've always been told that there is a grain of truth in every legend. So, be safe out there. If you see any black-eyed kids, don't interact with them, just leave. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.